Abeni was only 25, kind-hearted and full of hope, even though her belly was heavy with life and her heart was already tired. She lay in a small, dim clinic in Boma, her back soaked with sweat, her hands gripping the bed, the pain of labour crashing over her like waves. Kazi, her husband, stood nearby in his flashy shirt, phone always in hand. When her screams grew louder, his phone rang. He looked at the screen, smiled slightly and said, "It's important, I'll be right back." He kissed her forehead, then walked out the door. But he never came back. Instead, he drove straight to a hotel to meet his girlfriend, laughing and dancing like nothing else mattered. Meanwhile, Abeni was left alone, shaking, bleeding, begging for strength. Nurses rushed in, but there was no one to hold her hand, no one to wipe her tears. She screamed into the walls, her voice cracking with pain and heartbreak. And then, with one final push, she brought her baby into the world alone. The room was filled with cries, but none of them were for her. Only silence followed, except for her baby's first breath and the sound of a woman left behind. Abeni was still shaking when the cries of her newborn son filled the small clinic room. Her body was weak, her gown soaked in sweat and blood, her breath coming in short, broken gasps. She looked around with tired eyes, hoping, just for a second, that maybe Kazi would walk back through the door, that maybe he had changed his mind, that he'd remembered she was here, giving birth to his child. But the door stayed closed. The pain of labour had passed, but another pain remained, a deeper one, one that sat in her chest like a stone. But in the middle of that loneliness, a warm hand reached out and took hers. It was Mama Odile, the midwife. Her eyes were soft and kind, full of strength. She didn't speak at first. She just sat beside Abeni, holding her hand, brushing damp hair from her forehead, humming a quiet song that sounded like something from a mother's memory. Abeni could feel herself slowly breathing again, not because the pain was gone, but because someone stayed, someone cared. Mama Odile had been there through it all. She had helped deliver the baby with steady hands and a calm voice, whispering, "Push, baby girl, push," over and over, like a prayer. When Abeni thought she couldn't take one more second, Mama Odile squeezed her hand and said, "You're stronger than you think." And when the baby finally came, a beautiful baby boy with strong lungs and wide eyes, Mama Odile had smiled like he was her own. Abeni looked at her baby, tears rolling down her cheeks, not from pain anymore, but from something else. Relief, wonder, sadness, joy, all mixed together. She didn't even have the strength to speak. She just lay there, staring at the baby on her chest, his little fingers wrapping around hers. The world outside the room felt far away. It was just her, her son, and this stranger who had somehow become family in a matter of hours. Then Mama Odile leaned close. Her voice was soft, just above a whisper. She said, "He may have left you, but this child will never forget who stayed." The words hit Abeni like a warm blanket on a cold night. She closed her eyes and let the tears fall freely. That one sentence wrapped around her heart. It didn't erase the hurt, but it gave her something new, something strong. She looked at her son again. He was here. He was hers. And he would grow up knowing that even when others walked away, love stayed. Love held her hand. Love delivered him. Mama Odile wrapped the baby in a soft cloth and laid him beside Abeni. She checked her vitals, cleaned her gently, brought her warm water. All the while, she spoke little things. "He's a strong boy, looks just like you. You did so well, Mama." It was the kind of care that didn't just heal the body, but the soul. Later that night, when the room was quiet and the lights were low, Abeni looked down at her baby sleeping on her chest. She whispered his name for the first time, Mosi. It meant firstborn, a new beginning, a promise to herself. She stroked his tiny cheek and kissed the top of his head. "It's just me and you now," she whispered. But that's enough. Outside, the world kept moving. Cars drove by. Phones kept ringing. Somewhere in a hotel room, Kazi was laughing with another woman, not knowing, or caring, that his son had just been born. But inside that small clinic room, something powerful was happening. A mother was being born too. And in the middle of that quiet space, there was no anger, no shouting, no revenge, just the sound of breath and the gentle hum of Mama Odile folding fresh sheets. Before leaving the room, Mama Odile turned back one last time. "Rest now," she said softly. "You are not alone." And for the first time in a long time, Abeni believed it, not because the pain was gone, but because someone stayed. The clinic room was quiet, except for the soft breathing of baby Mosi lying next to his mother. Abeni was resting, her body still sore, her heart still tender, her eyes were half closed. But sleep never fully came. It had been a long, painful night, not just of giving birth, but of facing the truth that Kazi was gone. Her mind was heavy, but she tried to focus on her son's tiny fingers, his little breaths, the way he nuzzled close to her chest. For a moment, it was just the two of them, wrapped in a kind of stillness that felt almost peaceful. Then her phone started buzzing, again and again. It had been quiet all night, and now it wouldn't stop. At first, she ignored it, thinking it might be spam or maybe someone from the hospital, but it kept vibrating beside her pillow. Finally, she picked it up. Her hands trembled a little, still weak. A message from her cousin appeared on the screen. "Abeni," it said. "I'm so sorry, but you need to see this." She clicked the video. It was short, shaky, filmed in a hotel lounge. Loud music played in the background. There was Kazi, her husband, wearing the same shirt he had on when he left her in labor. He was smiling, dancing, holding another woman close. The girl laughed as he whispered something in her ear. Abeni watched as he twirled the woman around like he had no care in the world, like she didn't exist, like her baby didn't just arrive into the world hours ago without a father nearby. Her phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. Her breath caught in her throat, not because she was shocked. Deep down, she had already known, but seeing it, watching it, it broke something inside her that no one could see. She didn't scream, she didn't cry loud. She just sat there, her whole body heavy, the betrayal sitting in her stomach like a cold stone. It wasn't the labor pain that hurt her most. It was this, the kind of pain that doesn't show on your skin but burns deep inside your chest. Tears began to fall, silently at first, then faster. She looked down at Mosi, sleeping peacefully beside her, innocent and untouched by the world. She wiped her face with the corner of her sheet, breathing in and out, trying to calm the storm inside her. "No more," she whispered. "No more waiting for someone who will never choose us." She picked up her phone again, this time not to cry, not to beg, but to act. Scrolling through her contacts, she stopped at one name, Aisha, an old friend from school. Aisha had always been bold, always dreaming big. Abeni remembered the last time they spoke. Aisha had just opened a female startup incubator in Kinshasa, helping women turn their ideas into real businesses. She had told Abeni, "When you're ready to build something of your own, call me." And now, Abeni was ready, not because she had all the answers, not because she had no fear, but because she had Mosi, and he deserved a mother who wouldn't break, no matter how hard life tried. She pressed call. The phone rang once, twice. Then a warm voice picked up. "Abeni, is that you?" Her voice cracked, but she spoke clearly. "Aisha, I need help." There was silence for a beat. Then Aisha replied, "Say no more, I'm here. Whatever you need, we'll figure it out. You're not alone." And just like that, something shifted. A door opened in her heart. A new beginning had quietly stepped in. That night, as the stars blinked over the dark sky, Boma, Abeni didn't feel like a woman who had been left. She felt like a woman who had just decided to rise. She held Mosi close, kissed the top of his soft little head, and whispered, "We're going to be okay. Better than okay." And somewhere in Kinshasa, a spark had already started. One call, one decision. That's all it took to change the story. 2 years had passed. The days of crying alone in a clinic bed were gone. The nights of wondering how she would survive had become a memory. Abeni had changed, not just on the outside, but deep within. The woman who had once been abandoned in labor was now known as Mama Moyo across the country. Her face was on billboards, her voice played on popular podcasts, and her name was mentioned in magazines and talk shows. Everyone wanted to know her story, the young mother who rose from heartbreak and built something powerful. It started with one idea. After calling her friend Aisha that night, Abeni moved to Kinshasa with baby Mosi wrapped tightly on her back. She worked hard. She joined Aisha's startup incubator, and with support and late nights, she launched her dream. Moyo Mamas. The brand began with simple handmade baby carriers and wraps, designed for single mothers like her. Then came clothes, toys and books, all made by women who had once been left behind. Abeni trained other single mothers to work with her, to earn money, and to believe in themselves again. Moyo Mamas wasn't just a business, it was a sisterhood. Her son, Mosi, was now a happy 2-year-old with bright eyes and a smile that melted hearts. He became the face of her brand. People adored seeing his little curls in photo shoots, often snuggled in a colourful Moyo Mama wrap on his mother's back. Every ad showed strength, love, and survival. Abeni became a symbol, proof that a single mother could rise, shine, and build something that changed lives. She would sit on TV sets, in smart outfits, speaking with calm and confidence. "They called me weak," she'd say, "but they didn't see the fire inside me. Being left in that clinic didn't destroy me. It gave me a reason to fight harder, for myself and for my son." Audiences clapped. Women cried. Her story was not just inspiring, it was real, and it spread like wildfire. Back in Boma, things were different for Kazi. The flashy clothes were gone. The girls stopped answering his calls. The money dried up. His job let him go after too many late nights and lies. One day, his girlfriend packed her bags and left. Now, Kazi stood on street corners with dusty shoes, selling phone cards to strangers in traffic. His voice tired, his eyes dull. People barely looked at him. Some knew his story. Some pointed and whispered. "That's the man who left Mama Moyo in labour." Others just ignored him. He was invisible in a world that had moved on. Sometimes, he'd see Abeni's face on a passing bus, her arm proudly around little Mosi, both of them smiling under the words, "Strong starts with Mama," and every time his heart ached. Not just because he lost them, but because they never looked back. She didn't chase him. She didn't cry for him. She became something more without him. Abeni, on the other hand, didn't waste time thinking about Kazi. She was too busy helping other women. Every week she met new mothers, some fresh from heartbreak, some just starting over. She welcomed them with open arms, telling them, "I know how it feels, but we don't have to stay in that pain. We can rise together." She gave them jobs, training, and hope. In her office, walls were filled with photos of smiling mothers and children, all part of the Moyo Mama's family. In the evenings, Abeni would return home, tired but full of purpose. She'd cook simple meals for Mosi, read him stories, and sing him songs before bed. Sometimes, when he asked where his father was, she'd kiss his forehead and say, "You've always had what you need, love, care, and truth, and I'll always be here." One night, while tucking Mosi in, he looked up and asked, "Mama, why do they call you Mama Moyo?" She smiled, brushing his curls. "Because Moyo means heart, and everything I do with heart. For you, for me, for every mama who was told she wasn't enough." Outside, the world was loud, messy, and unfair. But inside that small home, there was peace, there was strength, there was Moyo. And Abeni, she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was leading, teaching, loving, living. She had become the woman she once dreamed of, not because life was easy, but because she never gave up. From pain came power, from tears came fire, and from the ashes of betrayal rose Mama Moyo. It was a quiet morning. The sun had just risen, and Abeni was sipping tea on her balcony, watching Mosi play with his toy blocks on the floor. The house was calm, filled with laughter and soft music from the radio. Life had become peaceful, strong, but peaceful. Her days were full now, but not heavy. She had built a life filled with purpose, and every time she looked at her son's face, she felt proud. He was growing fast, smart, curious, always asking questions, and he smiled so much. That smile kept her going. Her phone rang. It was the security guard from the front gate. "Madam," he said, "there's a man outside. Says he's your husband. He looks very bad. He's been standing here a while, begging to speak to you." Abeni paused. For a moment, her heart skipped. She hadn't heard that word, husband, in a long time. Not with meaning, not with weight. She stood up slowly, walked to the window, and took a deep breath. Then she said, "I'm coming." She walked out the front door, steady and calm. As she got closer to the gate, she saw him. Kazi. He was almost unrecognizable. The man who once wore gold chains and loud shirts now stood in worn slippers and dusty clothes. He looked thin, his cheeks hollow, his eyes tired. In his hands was a small ragged teddy bear. It looked old, like it had been carried around for days. He clutched it tightly, like it was the only thing he had left. When Kazi saw her, he stepped forward. His voice cracked. "Abeni, please, I just want to meet my son. That's all. Just 5 minutes." She didn't speak right away. She looked at him, really looked. This man who once walked out of a clinic while she screamed in labour. This man who chose laughter in hotel rooms over love in hospital beds. The same man who vanished when she needed him most. But this time, she felt no anger, just clarity. She stepped closer, standing straight, her voice calm and even. "My son," she said slowly, "is not alone. He never was. From the moment he entered this world, someone was by his side. I was there. I held him. I fed him. I stayed up all night with him. I taught him how to walk, how to speak, how to be kind. And he doesn't need a visitor now. He needs a father, something you chose not to be." Kazi looked down at the teddy bear. His hands trembled. "I know I failed. I know I left, but I've lost everything. I don't have a job. I don't have anyone. I just want to be part of his life." Abeni's eyes softened slightly, but she did not step closer. "It's not about what you want, Kazi. It's about what he needs. You don't get to disappear and walk back in just because you're lonely now. Being a father isn't a one-time gift. It's a lifelong choice, and you made yours long ago." He opened his mouth to speak again, but she gently raised her hand. "I forgave you already," she said. "Not for you, but for me. Because I needed to be free. But I won't let you break what I built. Mosi is happy. He is safe. He has love. He doesn't ask for a man who left. He doesn't miss someone he never knew." Kazi's eyes filled with tears. He reached out, holding up the teddy bear. "It was mine. When I was a kid. I kept it. Thought maybe he could have it." Abeni looked at the bear. A part of her remembered Kazi before all the lies, before the cheating, before the pain. But that part didn't hold power anymore. She nodded slowly to the security guard. "You can give it to the guard," she said. "He'll bring it in. But you and we're done." She turned and walked back toward the house. Kazi stood still, silent, his arms slowly falling to his side. The gate closed quietly behind her. Back inside, Mosi looked up as she entered. "Mama, my car fell under the chair." Abeni laughed, crouched down, and pulled the toy car out. "There you go, my little hero." Mosi ran into her arms, hugging her tightly. She held him close, closing her eyes for just a second. His heartbeat against her chest was steady, strong. She didn't tell him what had happened at the gate. He didn't need to carry that weight, not yet. In time, he would grow and ask questions. And when he did, she would answer with truth, but never bitterness, because she had already chosen strength. She had chosen peace. And most of all, she had chosen to be the kind of parent Kazi could never be. Outside, the teddy bear was placed gently in a box by the security post. Inside, love remained exactly where it always had, right at home. The room was full of parents, teachers, and excited children. Laughter and whispers filled the school hall as the curtains opened for the class play titled "The Strongest Woman." Little kids, dressed in capes and colourful costumes, ran onto the stage, pretending to fly and save the world. And then, Mosi stepped out. He wore a bright red cape, tiny boots, and a big smile. He looked around the room, searching for one face. When he found her, his mother, he smiled even wider. Abeni sat in the middle row, dressed simply but elegantly, hands folded in her lap, heart beating fast. She had watched her son grow from a tiny baby in her arms to this brave little boy on stage, and now here he was, standing tall, about to speak. The play paused. Mosi walked forward, holding a toy microphone. He looked at the crowd, then pointed directly at his mother. "My hero is my mama," he said loudly. "She never left me, even when someone else did." The room went quiet for a second, then broke into loud applause. Some people wiped their eyes. Abeni didn't move. She just smiled gently, her eyes filled with tears. But they didn't fall. She was proud. She was whole. She was unshaken.